now. Hello everyone, Ramadan Kareem and a warm virtual welcome to you all. My name is Nada Salha and I'm a member of the team at HDA. I will be facilitating this session along with my colleagues Maya and Chris. Wow, week 6 of distance learning. Who would have thought we had come this far? What a journey it has been and what a journey it will definitely continue to be for a little while longer. No doubt, many of us are experiencing struggle and anxiety, fear, grief, and perhaps loss. But we're also experiencing moments of kindness, generosity, self-reflection, and resilience. I would like to start off by really saying deep, heartfelt thanks to all of you fantastic teachers for keeping the learning going. You have done an incredible job and you are superheroes of during this pandemic. So thank you so much. We're going to be using Mentimeter as part of the webinar today. So may I please request that if you have a second device, just have that handy beside you and log on to menti.com. So if we go to menti.com and enter the code 253937, and you'll see a question there. I would like you to take a couple of minutes now just to share what your sources of resiliency have been over the last 6 weeks. What is helping you in the process of adapting in the midst of this pandemic? What are you drawing strengths from to get up every morning and do it all over again? So if you can just take a few minutes and just enter a couple of words and they'll come up in a word cloud shortly. For some of you, it might be friends, family. For me, it's my mum. She's been a great source of resilience for me over the last few weeks. So please go ahead and feel free to enter those words, and it's all done anonymously. We may feel that things are falling apart around us, but what helps us through the struggle and low times are these sources of resiliency. And I can see people saying, having a positive attitude, gratitude, friends, mum and dad, gratitude. Art, positive thoughts, mindfulness and meditation. And whilst you are doing that, let me just rewind back to 2012. A movement known as What Works began and would come to change the culture of education in Dubai. It was a series of events that was anchored in a strength-based approach and was focused on collaboration. And What Works X is where we are at the moment is pretty much the same concept. It's just the platform changes. And perhaps with this awesome technology, it allows for even more teachers to participate and share what's working in their own schools. Wow, Netflix. that's definitely one of those sources for some people. Mental health, nurturing positivity, eating well, my son, physical activity, cooking, optimism, resolve, routine. Absolutely. Watering my plants in the backyard. my husband, my colleagues, love, positive thinking, faith, definitely. And Microsoft Teams, that's been my gift actually, and it's been having that platform to communicate with you all. Thank you so much for that. We've had over 100 comments there. So just take a moment and look at that word cloud, and you can see that family is definitely one of our anchors of resiliency. Thank you so much for doing that, everybody, and thank you for your honesty. Okay, so distance learning is really pretty much a new experience for all of us, for teachers, for parents, for students. And we've gathered evidence from you to understand where you are and how you're finding the experience of distance learning. And what you've told us is that you want to learn more about how to support the well-being of students, staff, and parents for distance learning. And that is what this 1 hour session is about. We'll be joined by Joseph Salame shortly, and he will be delivering a presentation on this particular topic. Today's session will start off with a 20-minute presentation by Joseph, and then will be followed by a Q&A session, which will include some questions previously submitted by you, our participants, and also some live questions. Now, as much as we'd love to hear your voices, your mics have been muted for this webinar, as we have around 150 people on the call today with us. However, please do ask questions throughout the presentation by submitting them in the Q&A feature to the right of your screen and ensuring that your questions are on topic. And the Q&A session will be facilitated by my lovely colleague, Magnus. And there's Magnus. Hello, Magnus.
Hi, Nada, how are you?
Fantastic. Would you be so kind in introducing Mr. Joseph Salame for us? Thank you, Magnus.
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Nada. Hi, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our next presenter, Joseph Salame. Joseph Salame is a highly experienced principal from Lebanon who has been a principal, a so-called professeur, at the Lycée Libanais Francophone Prive in Dubai since September of 2007. Joseph has been kind enough to put together a presentation which responds to the theme of supporting student, teacher, and parent well-being during distance learning. Without the consistent routine of the school day, reliable Wi-Fi, or even a quiet place to work, students, and parents for that matter, may be struggling to adjust to learning outside the classroom. Studying remotely can blur the line between home and academic life, making it hard to disconnect from school-related tasks at the end of the day. I am sure we're all aware that students, staff, and parents will feel a sense of anxiety and sometimes stressed. These feelings are all very much normal. While nothing can replace teachers' in-person interactions with their students, the same digital tools used for teaching can be used to check in on students' well-being. Teachers are always helping students to keep classwork organized, follow schedules, complete tasks. These self-management skills are even more critical to students' emotional well-being now that they are studying from home. It is also important to keep healthy relationships with family, friends, and loved ones, as these are vital to our own mental well-being during this time. So, on behalf of all of us, I'd like to hand over the word to Joseph. Over to you, Joseph.
Joseph, your mic, please. No problem.
Thank you, Nada, and thank you, Magnus. Good afternoon, everyone, and Ramadan Kareem for everyone. My name is Joseph Salame. I'm the principal of Lycée Libanais Francophone Prive in Dubai. And before starting, I would like to deeply thank Dr. Abdullah Karam, CEO of KHDA, and the team of What Works, and the teams of KHDA, especially Mrs. Nada Salha, Mrs. Maya Shaiban, Mr. Magnus Lindstrom, Mr. Colm Cragen, Mr. Junaid. And before starting also, I would like to sincerely apologize for my lack of fluency in English. So I'm really counting on your patient listening. Thank you very much. So today we have to answer this question: how do we ensure the well-being of children, parents, and teachers in this period of full-time distance learning? What I would like to say is that we are, and I am, sharing with you what worked for us, and telling you that each school has its own context, its own public, its own students, teachers, and parents. And everyone has a different experience. And at the end, they are all aim for the well-being of the school community. So modestly and humbly, I'm sharing with you what we are doing, what we started to do on the 22nd of March, only 6 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, French President Emmanuel Macron was asked by the Financial Times, Nada, please, the next slide. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, French President Emmanuel Macron was interviewed by Financial Times, and they asked him, have you ever imagined that you would be in a situation where you should manage such a crisis? And what does it change in you, but also in the way of being president? The answer of the President Macron was, you have to be ready for fate, in a state of mind, ready to fight, to try to understand what seemed unthinkable. And we need to be ready intellectually, personally, sensitively, to accept the event as it comes. And the most important words, we have to accept that it changes us. And we don't know, not being able to tell in what way it changes us. That's why we need to be both humble and determined. In LLFP, the senior leadership team gathered, I remember, on Thursday, March 5. And we had a very, very long meeting that started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we finished at, I think, 7 or 7:30, just to envision what is coming, what was coming. We knew that we were going on vacation for 2 weeks, but we had to prepare for the 22nd of March to enter something new, a terra incognita, unknown territory. So we had to work together because distance learning was for us unthinkable. 8 weeks ago, completely unthinkable. And all schools had to make very big efforts to implement this distance learning at different levels, in terms of staff, students, training, in terms of organization and curriculum priorities. We all understood at that time, at the beginning of March, that technology would save the academic year, but technology would change a lot of things and would disrupt the well-being of students, teachers, and parents by introducing something abnormal. And now we know that it had become the new normality. It was a great opportunity to seize, but an unprecedented challenge for all of us. So all LLFP teams got mobilized and tried to turn difficulties into challenges and obstacles into opportunities. LLFP, Lycée Libanais Francophone Privé, is not alone. Lycée Libanais Francophone Privé in Dubai is part of a worldwide integrated French curriculum schools network, AEFE, Agence pour l'enseignement français à l'étranger. All these schools, there are more than 500 schools around the world with more than 370,000 students. All we have in common is the French language, the French culture, the French education. We have in common the values and the way of doing of the French education and the French curriculum. And at the end, the aim, le Graal, we say in French, the aim, the ultimate, is the French baccalaureate, this prestigious diploma that is recognized all over the world, in almost all the countries of the world, and in the most important universities of the world. The French baccalaureate that our students of grade 12 have. This network is organized in the UAE with around 7 schools, 5 in Dubai, over 10,000 students, led by the cultural counselor at the French embassy, and inspectors, regional, academic and regional inspectors in Paris, and French national inspector in Abu Dhabi, with different educational consultants for all subjects. To organize our distance learning, the senior leadership team had a few concerns and some criteria. In order to succeed in our organization, we had to be very meticulous in this organization, starting from the school. We know our school, and our school knows us. And in different schools, principal and the teams know their schools, know their public. So we had to organize that, taking into consideration our context. Second point, second criteria, it should be a progressive implementation per phase and step by step with a precise monitoring. And we are monitoring distance learning at LLFP daily. Every day I receive reports. Every day I communicate with all senior and middle leaders and with some teachers as well. So a precise monitoring day to day. And the third point, very important point, is the continuous availability. We work a lot. We have to be at least available, even if we have to put some discipline in our work in order not to work 24 hours a day. We have to be available 24 hours a day, and to communicate multidirectionally with everyone. And everyone are the 3 pillars of the school community. On 3 pillars, we can put a table. On 2, we cannot. And the 3 pillars are the teachers, the students, and the parents. Of course, the teams, but we are in it. So this distance learning introduced, obliged us to redefine the roles and the expectations of everyone, and to support differently our students remotely. So we had to have, like I said, a clear organization with weekly educational consultation meetings. We are supported by the French education consultants with meetings every week with our school coordinators, and our school coordinators meet every week with their teachers per level to give them recommendations and ways of doing. So during this distance learning time, full-time distance learning, teachers, like all of us, are in unknown territory. And what teachers need is comfort, support. The slide, please, Nada. Comfort, support, encouragement, support for their teaching through guidance, clear directions, encouragement for their authority. They have to have this academic educational authority in virtual classes like in real classes, and comfort for their salaries, for their future, for their families. And we had for that guarantees from the board, because the board also is part of the school and is supporting the school in this process, in this adventure. It is an adventure. Teachers need also concrete solutions for their difficulties. When they come to you and ask you for a solution for a concrete problem, they don't need words. They need words that can be put into execution and that can relieve them or resolve their problem. When they come to you and say, in my class, on 20 or 25 students, I have 5 that refuse to put on their cameras. What should I do? I have to answer that, not telling them, oh, you have to insist, tell them, please. Okay. And because we teach with our personalities, not only with our knowledge. And we have to keep up this ardor of the heart, this rigor of the spirit, and this vigor in our action. Students in distance learning need also support. They need a lot of support. It's new for them. First of all, it's a curiosity, and everything new is nice. But they need rules. They need to get more autonomy. They need to express themselves, and they need assistance. So in terms of rules, we prepared at the school a charter, an IT charter, that was signed by all students online and by their parents to secure the good use of technology. This is important because technology, and we have to use it properly. In terms of autonomy, students understood that they have to be actors, not only spectators. They cannot wait until we give them what they need or what they want. They have to act. So autonomy was a necessity to succeed. Students have to express themselves, to express what makes them happy and what makes them sad. So we open them spaces for expression through a blog. We have a wonderful blog on our site, on our website, and it's a place of convergence, of creativity, of concerns, of productions, of ideas, and of fun. And students need assistance. And we have, through WhatsApp groups with the students' delegates, every day a feedback. They can express their concerns to the well-being team. La vie scolaire, we say in French. The school's life. And we have, and that took place last Monday, 2 sessions in 2 different classes with the school psychologist to answer the anxiety and the difficult questions of students in grade 12. You know, this anxiety is coming from the unknown future. They are in grade 12, they will finish and graduate in 2 months. Where are they going to go? How the world of universities will look like. So this is important for students, rules, autonomy, expression, assistance. Then parents. Of course, parents now are the custodian of their children. They are at home, children are at home, and home is a place of work, is a place of living for family, of fun, of course, of communication, but also of work. So everyone has to work from home. With distance learning, I think that parents understood the importance of the teacher's role and the teacher's place, and sometimes the teacher's hardship. And parents became aware of the necessity of their own implication. They have to be concerned by the education of their children. They cannot only say, it's the school job. Now it's the school job, of course, but I have to be implicated. Problem is how or how much. So they need advice. They need to be listened to, and they need to have explanations. We need to communicate with parents. Parents, like, the advice is some advices, a few advices are very simple. They have to offer a right work environment for their child. Stay close to him, but not on him all the time. Give him autonomy, but give him place. Give him the possibility to do his own homework by himself. Avoid unnecessary pressure. Avoid unnecessary pressure. Reassure, encourage, congratulate, and avoid focusing on difficulties. You didn't do that. You didn't know. Okay. And stay positive, of course. Sometimes, and especially in lower grades, parents are very present, and sometimes it's necessary. But sometimes parents question the pertinence of what the teacher is learning. And this is difficult because it puts the student, it puts the child in a bizarre position. So the advice is, instead of questioning the teacher's request, communicate with the teacher. Stay positive, communicate with the teacher by mail, and he will answer you. And in our school, we answer all mails within 48 hours, between 24 and 48 hours, and sometimes within 24 hours. And at the end, the most important advice is to encourage children to respect the rules of communication and to keep good behavior. Psychological guidance for parents is sometimes necessary. That's why in our school, last Sunday, we had at 8 o'clock in the night, in order to make it possible for any parent of the school to attend, we had an open forum on Instagram, the Instagram of the school, with the families and the psychologists. And the session was about an hour and a half long, and a lot of questions and a lot of answers were thrown. And I think everyone was happy with it because of the communication, but because also of the way of the freedom of expressing their concerns, their difficulties, sometimes their anxieties as parents trying to supervise their children at home. Now, the distance learning has to go on with the curriculum. So how are we reprioritizing our curriculum? How are we redefining the priorities of our curriculum, and how are we teaching it? 3 criteria. The context. The context is the reality. If we don't understand the reality, we go nowhere. So the context is to teach what is possible to be taught with the tools we have, with the distance learning tools and their limitations. I give you an example. We cannot make scientific experiments live. It's impossible. So we have to find something else. Something else is probably a platform, and it is. It's not probably, because our teachers did it in grade 10, 11, and 12. Like, there's a virtual lab where students could go, but it's impossible to go to the lab. So we have to adapt to the reality, to the context. Second criteria is the curriculum. What is mandatory in the curriculum? In the French curriculum, there's something called le socle commun de connaissances, de compétences et de culture. It's the common ground of knowledge, skills, and culture. This is the core of the program. And this is something we should do. We can compact, we can modulate the way of doing it, but we should do it. So we have to go to the mandatory core. And third criteria is, why are we doing all this? This is what we have to do. This is what we can do, what we are able to do, mandatory and possible. But why are we doing it? Because of the future, because it is useful to do it, because it will prepare our students for next year. So we have to project ourselves in September 2020 to give all the chances for our students to start fresh and to have a good start in the next year, in the coming year. The distance learning structure, based on the curriculum, what is possible, what is mandatory, and what is useful, made us, for all phases, teach all subjects. All subjects were concerned, all subjects were covered. They were compacted. We used different learning strategies, flipped classrooms, interactive activities, a lot of things, but projects, but all phases and all subjects are concerned and covered. The platform used in our school is the Microsoft Teams for online session. Pronote, it's a French platform, very efficient for asynchronous time and sometimes for multiple choices questionnaires, very effective. And in KGs, the Seesaw platform, which is easy to manipulate for everyone, students and teachers. The goal is, of course, to know and meet all every student's need. Then the timetables. In KG's elementary and secondary school, we set a fixed timetable per day, 5 days a week. In KG's, 5 days a week, 1 or 2 only live sessions per day of 20 minutes each, and in very small groups. We have classes of 20, 22, or 24 students. We divided them in small groups of 4 children to personalize the intervention, to personalize the conversation between the teacher and the students. It was not easy, but it was done. And it works. It works better than having 20 students in a team, in a Microsoft team. In elementary and secondary school, a fixed timetable, 5 days a week from 9 to 2, with 4 or 5 sessions of 45 minutes each. But you'll see that the 45 minutes live session is not only like courses and talking. And 15 to 30 minutes break between each session. For each live session, we asked, and the teacher did it, they carefully planned and detailed the timing of each session. Each session is divided in different timings. We have a recap and the objectives, then the explanation, then interactive activities, question and answers, and at the end, a synthesis and a wrap-up. And during the session, each student has the possibility to ask his question individually through the chat. And the teacher would answer it either during the live session or afterwards, because the student afterwards can still access the team. So these personalized conversations between teachers and students are really the keys of success. Next concern, very important one. What do we do with the students of determination? What do we do with the special needs? Their needs are here. Is this process adapted? We should adapt it. We don't have learning support assistants during the distance learning, but in secondary school we managed to specially design for students of determination small groups and planned it in the timetable 3 times a week. In addition to the live sessions, these were sessions with small groups between 4 and 6 students with a teacher 3 times a week on top of the live sessions. In elementary school, each live session is differentiated in terms of structure, in terms of content for students of determination, in terms of tools, and in terms of work to do, production, according to the needs. And in KGs, on top of the very small sessions of 20 minutes with 4 students, 3 or 4 students, for the students of determination, we have weekly individual videos and messages that are sent to them and to their parents, actually, and we work with their parents and them according to the availability of the parents. Now, the asynchronous learning materials are uploaded twice a week in KGs and every day in elementary and secondary grades, secondary school, every day. Because we give this material in order to communicate to everyone, students and families, so everyone knows the information we want to communicate. And we communicate on this French platform, French system platform, Pronote, which is very efficient because it gives access to the parents with a different password and access to the student with a different password. And each one of them, parent and student, have different spaces. So they have their own information. The problem in the distance learning that we faced after 2 weeks was, or after the first week, was the load, the homework load. Students had a lot to do. So we reduced the activities, especially now during Ramadan. In KGs, 1 activity per day, 4 times a week. In elementary school, from grade 1 to grade 5, only 1 homework per day. And in secondary school, where there's a lot of teachers, a lot of subjects, grade 6 to grade 12, we had 4 calendars, superposed calendars. A calendar for fixed online assessments once a week, only once. Fixed graded homeworks, only 1 or 2 per week. That makes 3 homeworks for the students. And not graded homeworks, exercises, only 2 short homeworks per day of 20 minutes each. So this gives us around 10 to 12, at least 3 mandatory works to do, and around 6 to 8 homeworks, and 2 projects per month only, not more. The implementation, as I said, was step by step, was gradual. And the first 2 weeks were the setup phase. And then we introduced the assessments, formative and summative. And then the students of determination, specially designed sessions. And then the extracurricular activities that started at the end of last week. Après-midi découverte et passion, like afternoons of discovery and passion, which is very successful. It's optional, but highly recommended, because students need also to have fun, and it's only optional. So now, about the well-being of students and staff at your school. How would you rate the overall well-being of students at your school? And how would you rate the overall well-being of teachers at your school? Please go to menti.com. Oh, that's good. Students are very happy, even parents. Teachers are weighing a big burden. Big burden on teachers' shoulder. Okay, well, that's not bad. That's not bad. For students, 4, teachers at your school, 3.4, and parents, 3.6. It's not bad. Well, how can we evaluate and review the distance learning in our school? Well, actually, there's one word: communication. Only one word. And one act: meetings. We have in our school daily and weekly meetings at all levels. For the senior leadership team, at least twice a week. I had one this morning, and we have one on Sunday, and probably one on Tuesday, not all the time. Meetings with the school well-being team, this school's life team, le département de vie scolaire, meetings between coordinators and teachers. But the most important part is not only the feedback that comes from the teachers and the coordinators, but the feedback that comes from students and from parents. And for this, we have the students delegates that is constantly in communication with the well-being team through the WhatsApp groups, and parents delegate, which are on constant communication with the well-being school teams through WhatsApp groups. We have parent delegate, we have students delegate. Parents delegate and students delegate give us a day-to-day feedback. And last week, we sent an in-house survey for teachers, students, and parents. And in our school, according to the latest KHEA well-being census, the adults had 82% of confidence and 80% motivation, and students who participated from grade 6 to grade 12 to the well-being census of KHDA, 100% participated, while grade 6 to grade 9, well-being overview between high and medium was around 85%. And for grade 10 to 12, well-being overview, high and medium, was about 83%. So our in-house surveys of students, teachers, and parents that went out last weekend is to be sent, this survey is to be sent on week 5, last week, end of last week, on week 10 and week 14. In 24 hours, on Sunday morning, we had 50 to 70% answers depending on students, teachers, or parents, and between 70 and 85% of satisfaction. It doesn't mean that it is okay, it's fine, it's perfect. It's not. Because we are taking next Sunday the details of what worked and what is not working well, and trying to change it, trying to improve it. So what did work well and what is not working well? What worked well is the planification, is the student autonomy. Even students are saying that we feel that we are more responsible, we can count on our skills. The positive interaction between teachers and students, it's very important. We are meeting the students' needs more and more every day, and we are trying with this condensation of timing spent in front of screens. We are preventing the negative effects of too much screen time, and we have very good communication with parents. Not perfect, of course, not outstanding, but very good communication with parents. And what is not working well is this stress, managing this stress. Like the first 2 weeks, I said it was nice because we say in French, tout nouveau, tout beau. Everything new is beautiful, is bright. But after 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and next week will be the seventh, and we are continuing, well, we feel the burden. We feel it is heavy. Everyone is feeling it, and students as well as teachers are sometimes stressed and need a good break. So we are waiting for Eid al-Fitr. Sometimes poor internet connection that disrupt the sessions. And what is not working very, very well is setting up summative assessments. You know, during live sessions, setting up summative assessments it's usually multiple choices questionnaires. Well, the French system is not very used to or accustomed with this practice. It's new practice for us. So that's why we have to improve this. We have to improve it in order to have something reliable. And there's fluctuation in students' motivation, student fatigue, teachers' motivation as well. And we are trying to keep the morale high. And of course, a lot of online surveys because everyone wants to gather data. We know now that nothing replaces real classes, nothing. And everyone wants to go back to school. And in the survey, students are saying, all I want is to go back to school. But we are not trying to replace the school. We are trying to do something else, something that allows us to continue, because continuing the continuous learning is important in this distance learning. At the end, it's not about having, it's about being. Life is not about having and getting, but about being and becoming. Technology is the tool that we have to use properly, because education is a real relation. We need to see each other. We need to speak to each other. We need to touch each other. We need to stay with each other. It's a real relation between person to person, between persons. To be happy and feel well, we need to bind. And sometimes we need to create this bond. We need to maintain it. Sometimes we need to restore it and always to nurture it. Well-being is physical, emotional, mental, intellectual. And as school leaders, we focus on 3 key values: excellence, caring, and educating. Excellence is not doing more, but doing better, doing our utmost to do better. And caring, it's caring for the entire person and her individual needs, the entire person. And educating, of course, we are educating, but educating responsible agents, responsible persons, agents of change with a moral and ethical sense. Because what we have, a lot can have, but what we are, no one can be. So being, that's why we say it's well-being, not well-having. At the end, to protect our school community, students need rules, support, autonomy, and means of expression. Parents need advice, listening, explanations. We are teachers, we have to explain. And teachers need comfort, encouragement, and concrete solutions. In these difficult times, we all need to be compassionate. All we need is compassion. So listen to every person, talk and communicate with every person. I'm not saying that we succeeded. I'm not saying that we failed. I'm saying that we are doing our best. Because like Sir Winston Churchill said, success is not final and failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph, for that very inspiring presentation. Very thoughtful. Thank you so much. We're now going to move into the question and answer section of this webinar. And as you all know, in the registration forms that you all filled out prior to this webinar, many of you submitted questions that I will touch upon to Joseph. And I will also try and include some of the live questions that I can see that you're posting in the chat feed here. So Joseph, I just want to let you know that we're stressed for time. So let's keep your answers short and informative, yeah? So we'll start off with the first question here. Let's see. I quote, this is the question regarding teachers. How to recognize a mentally and physically exhausted teacher who is struggling? What support would you offer?
I will answer shortly, Magnus, but it's a difficult question. How to recognize it? I'll give you two examples, real ones. One happened last week and one happened yesterday. Last week, one of our teachers on Wednesday didn't come to school, didn't show up on the live session. We called, no answer. We sent a message, no answer. Second day, the teacher did not show up at the live session. So what we did is our teachers live in the same building and are all confined, of course, locked down. So we asked the coordinator to call. So she received different calls from different persons. And through the WhatsApp messages, we understood that she read the messages. So she's fine. But we sent her colleague, her closest colleague to her, to visit her, to ask about her. She went there, but she didn't go there empty-handed. She took with her a homemade cake and went to her, and they stayed and talked. And the teacher, and we understood after that, because I contact her later on during the weekend, and we wrote one to another. She was exhausted. She lives here alone, away from her family. Her family is in France. She was tired, discouraged, and the alert was she did not show up. And she did not give us any reason. So we immediately reacted within the 24 hours. And she's back to work and she's feeling better. Even her students made her students in grade 11 and 12, right? Didn't give her a present, they could not, but they made her cards to wish her well and supported her. Second example was yesterday. One teacher is here with his family, outside his family, wife and two kids outside. And he's very much worried because he doesn't know when the airport will open, when he will be able to leave on vacation. So he wanted to leave anyways, but to work, to leave Dubai, to go back to his family as soon as he can get a plane to Europe. But he would continue distance learning from there. So we are trying to, how should I say, organize all this for the benefit of everyone, for the benefit of the teacher, for the benefit of the students, and for the benefit of the institution.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's move on to a question regarding students. You know, you've talked about how to motivate and encourage the children to stay optimistic. How do you support students online when they refuse to put on the camera, they refuse to partake in the blogs that you mentioned, and they refuse to talk during class?
Well, we introduced in our school, the first day on the 22nd, two gradings, like competencies, assiduity and studiousness. In French, assiduité et diligence. And the French curriculum gave us this opportunity to evaluate 5 competences, 5 skills of motivation and engagement for the student. And it's based on assiduity and punctuality, based on communication and interactivity during class, based on autonomy, on work organization, and 5 on good use of technology tools. So we assess that on a level of 1 to 4. Every teacher can assess that. He has this tool and it's a leverage. But it's not only about this. It's also about communicating. There's rules, and students might have to comply by the rules, and they are assessed, of course. But we communicate with them first through the well-being team, les chargés de vie scolaire, and then if the problem is not solved, we communicate immediately with their parents. Like today, before this meeting, I sent 4 letters to parents because 4 students were not, after like second warning, they did not give back or submit their homework. So now there's a mail, a formal mail to the parents, to the family, and we are waiting for the answer.
Thank you, thank you. Sorry to cut you off there. Let's talk about quickly, let's keep it to 30-second answers. Thank you. When it comes to encouraging students to socially interact with each other, that's something that the school encourages.
Yes.
Yeah.
30 seconds. Okay. We have midi découverte et évasion, like the afternoon of discoveries and evasion.
Yeah.
We propose extracurricular activities. They are optional, they are recommended. It's do-it-yourself activities, physical activities, intellectual activities, cultural activities, virtual museum visits, artistic activities, scientific, experimental, cinematographic, culinary, etc.
Let's take a live question here. I see there's
even French music playlists.
Wow, wow. I see there's someone here who asked, what should we do to parents who are always telling teachers what to teach? What do you say to
that? We answer these parents. We ask them, first of all, to write to the teacher and not to intervene live on the spot. You know, they are hearing what's happening in class and they cut off the teacher and intervene. We do not advise or do not recommend this, absolutely. We tell them, write to the teacher and the teacher will answer you. And it happened. It happened. And the teacher, like, give his commentaries, give his analysis of the situation that clarifies the situation, and probably the parent understands.
Super. Thank you so much for your time, Joseph. I'll hand over now to Nada. Thank you.
Thank you, Magnus. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sound, Nada, sound.
Sound, Nada, and camera.
Thank you. I was just saying thank you to Joseph and to the team for that insightful presentation.
Your camera. The camera is still on me, Nada?
Okay, I think we're ready now. Thank you everyone for your patience, and thank you, Joseph, for that lovely presentation. We hope that was useful, or that you've been inspired to think of different solutions to introduce into your own schools. Now, before we conclude, may I just ask for another 5 to 6 minutes of your time? Would love your feedback. So if you could go back into menti.com once again and answer this question. Overall, how satisfied were you with the quality of the content of the webinar, the structure of the webinar, and the presenter and his preparedness in responding to questions? Now remember, this is anonymous and we would love your feedback in order to ensure that our future webinars improve. I'll just give you a couple of minutes to respond to those questions. Okay, so today we had around 180 people join us for this webinar. It really shows that our educators and our teachers and staff out there are really concerned about well-being. So thank you very much for joining us. I can see we've had about 27 people respond, so I'll give you a couple more minutes so we can get to everyone. Okay, just mindful of the time, we'll move on to the next question. So what did you enjoy most about the webinar today? Please just enter a couple of words. What I enjoyed most about the webinar today. Practical aspects that Joseph was talking about, some good examples, the school's overall planning for wellbeing. There was a lot of information there around workload as well, which does impact wellbeing. The Q&A session. The attention the school has put towards teacher wellbeing. Absolutely, it's essential. I loved best that all schools are going through the same things and schools are concerned about everyone's health and safety equally. Absolutely, we've seen that across all schools. It doesn't matter if you're an outstanding school or rated differently. I think everyone's main concern here is the well-being of our students, of our staff. And obviously that impacts on parents as well. Oh, someone's put in there everything. Thank you very much to that person. That I'm not alone, it's heartening to know and it's encouraging to hear that others are also going through similar experiences. Very informative. I like how the presenter has taken a strategic approach to implementing distance learning with the community at its heart. Fantastic. Well, we have almost 60 different feedbacks there. Thank you so much. Moving on to the next question. Now that you've listened to Joseph talk about well-being and their approach to well-being, what will be the first thing that you plan to do to improve well-being of students during distance learning following this webinar? Now, I've put there a couple of responses that you could choose from. So no plans to change, or will you engage students in strategic evaluation and reviewing of well-being? Check in more regularly with students through survey calls, perhaps. Explicit well-being lessons or well-being coaching, making counselling more accessible. Or do you have some other ideas? And our next question will explore the other ideas as well. For those couple of people that have said they have no plans to change, then you may have at your school some fantastic things that are working well. I'd love to hear some of those ideas on our next slide. But the majority of you are saying to engage students more in the strategic evaluation and review of wellbeing and to check in more regularly with students. Okay, just moving on to one other question. So those people that have said no plans to change, or those that have said other ways that you plan to support student wellbeing or teacher wellbeing, please do input some of those ideas now. In what other ways do you plan to support student and or teacher wellbeing following this webinar? You may have been inspired to try something new, or you may have had that idea bottled up in your head for a while, and probably now is the opportunity to try it out. Would love to hear your ideas and your initiatives that you feel that you could implement over the coming weeks. Be more in touch with teachers. They're definitely at the heart of education, along with our students. So checking in with teachers more regularly. Getting a proper wellbeing team to put together rather than isolated members of staff taking action individually. That's a great next step, definitely. Mobilizing a team of staff at your school to drive wellbeing throughout the school. Try to organize ECAs for students virtually. To have more personalized conversations with my students. Smaller group sessions for students more regularly, so it's easier for kids' voices to be heard. And sometimes the kids can get quite lost in this virtual world. I would use Mentimeter to take their feedback. That's great. So I hope the Mentimeter has inspired you to use this platform. It's quite easy to use and it's quite accessible. I think it has free access to a certain point, but yeah, do look into mentimeter.com. It's a great tool to get to student feedback anonymously as well. So I'm glad you're enjoying Mentimeter. Listen to parents and students talk about their concerns. Yes, it's important to be happy, but it's also important to provide that space for students and for teachers to voice that concern, that safe space. Mindfulness sessions, positive affirmations. So I can see a lot more there around listening and being compassionate and having empathy and providing support. Wow, a lot of ideas there. What I'll try to do is I'll put these into a slide and share it with everyone on this call as well, so that you also have access to these other ideas as well, along with the presentation that Joseph kindly presented. That will also be shared at the end of the webinar as our follow-up to this. This is great. We have almost 80 different ideas. Okay, now I'm just mindful of time, and I'll just end with this final slide. Feel free to continue inputting those ideas as I move on. Just to bring your attention to our In This Together website that KHD has put together. It's basically a repository of resources, webinars and information to help teachers, parents and students through the distance learning period. So please feel free to check that out at inthistogether.dubai.khda.gov.ae. You'll also find there listed all our upcoming What Works X webinars. And if you would like to present at a What Works X webinar, please feel free to contact us by emailing us at info@whatworks.ae. And Maya, if you could kindly just put that contact email in the Q&A. And finally, I found this last night when I was working late, when I know I shouldn't have been, but I just wanted to leave you with this lovely image. So basically, I want to say, do take care of your own well-being, be compassionate of yourself. Self-compassion is really important during these days, especially as teachers. We know you're working extremely hard, but do take time out for yourself and make sure that you're getting enough sleep. And with that, I would like to say a huge thank you for everybody for being with us today on this call. Be safe, Ramadan Kareem, and look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. And all our webinars will be on Monday and on Thursday at 4 p.m. So do check out In This Together, dubai.gov.ae for a list of those upcoming webinars. Thank you very much. Stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.